from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, coming up in the next 30 minutes. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi is likely to reply to motion of thanks on presidential address in the lower house of parliament. Deputy Prime Minister of Fiji, Biman Prasad, arrives in New Delhi on a week-long visit. Will meet India's External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar. United States vows further action after 3 days of strikes against Iran-backed militia in the West Asia hit targets in Iraq, Syria in response to Jordan attack. And FIFA announces fixtures of 2026 World Cup tournament being hosted by USA, Canada and Mexico. Final will be played in New Jersey. And on to details now. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi is likely to address the Lok Sabha, the lower house of the Indian Parliament, on Monday in response to last week's address by the President of India, Draupadi Murmu, during the opening of budget session. With the general elections to elect the next Indian government round the corner, PM Modi's statement in the Parliament in response to the discussion on the motion of thanks on the President's address is expected to be a significant one. He's likely to talk about the various steps taken by BJP-led NDA government, led by him in various sectors, including social, infrastructure and economic development. President Murmu has addressed a joint session comprising the two houses of parliament at the beginning of the session on Wednesday, and a discussion on the motion of thanks has been on in both the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha, the upper house of parliament. Well, the findings from the All India Survey of Higher Education released recently highlights a surge in student enrollment in higher education institutions. Notably, it is here that been a substantial increase in the participation of women in higher education. Here's a report by DD India's correspondent Kriti Vadhera.
India has a publicly funded higher education system that is the third largest in the world. The released findings of the All India Survey of Higher Education revealed a current enrollment of 43 million students in higher education institutes. This signifies a notable upswing in enrollment over the past decade.
Female enrollment in higher education has gone up by 28% in 10 years. In STEM courses, girls and women constitute 43% of enrollment, one of the highest in the world.
The survey encompasses the overall student enrollment across 8 distinct levels, including undergraduate, postgraduate, PhD, MPhil, PG diploma, certificate, and integrated programs.
There is a basic change. That is, the students are now thinking of the job market immediately. They are thinking of research. They are thinking of innovation. And at the same time, it is just not that. They have the option to work at the global level. We are into the path of research and innovations. And in India also, a lot of innovations and research are in force.
Female enrollment surpasses male enrollment, showcasing a consistent rise in the number of women enrolled in higher educational institutions. The most remarkable advancement is evident at the PhD level.
Number of universities and colleges are opened, and not only just opening the university and colleges, the number of seats in that colleges and universities increased, and because of this the student female candidates are basically getting more accurate atmosphere so that they can enroll in the higher education and the higher universities.
India's education system is steadily advancing, and the role of women is pivotal in country's journey towards becoming a developed nation by 2047. With camera person Lalit, I'm Kriti Vadhera reporting from New Delhi for DD India.
And the Deputy Prime Minister of Fiji, Biman Prasad, arrived here in Delhi on a week-long visit to India. During his visit, the visiting dignitary will meet India's External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar. He will also meet the Minister of State for External Affairs and Education, Rajkumar Ranjan Singh. The Fiji Deputy PM will also visit Goa to participate in a program. He's also scheduled to visit Ayodhya on the 8th of February. The Deputy PM of Fiji, who also serves as the Minister of Finance, Strategic Planning, National Development and Statistics for his country, is the first foreign leader to visit Ayodhya after the Pran Pratishtha ceremony on the 22nd of January. And the Assembly of Eastern Indian state of Jharkhand will witness the crucial floor test of the newly formed Champai Soren government. Earlier, Jharkhand Mukti Morcha leader Hemant Soren was arrested by Enforcement Directorate in land fraud case, necessitating another senior JMM leader, Champai Soren, to take over. This is not the first time the JMM is facing a floor test. In September 2022 also, Hemant Soren's government won a majority test with 48 votes in his favour. Meanwhile, the Special Ranchi Court has allowed former Jharkhand CM Hemant Soren to take part in floor test. He's currently in ED's custody. And now let's take a look at other stories making news today. India's National Centre for Seismology has reported that the East Garo Hills in the northeastern Indian state of Meghalaya experienced an earthquake measuring 3.5 on the Richter scale on Sunday. The streets of Kolkata in the Indian state of West Bengal played host to a spectacular event as the much-anticipated vintage car rally of 2024 unfolded with grandeur. The rally brought together a splendid array of classic automobiles, each steeped in its own unique history and charm. Drone visuals showed stunning pictures of snow-covered Gulmarg as a fresh spell of snowfall continued on Sunday. The snow-laden trees and glistening slopes added charm to the destination, creating a picturesque scene for the tourist. Notably, Gulmarg is one of the most incredible tourist destinations, famous for its eye-catching view during the snowfall season. 14 children on autism spectrum made waves in sea swimming expedition as they swam 165 kilometers from India's Cuddalore to Chennai over 4 days in world record sea swimming expedition. This extraordinary expedition undertaken by children on the autism spectrum is registered with the World Records Union, the Asia and India Book of Records. Well, school and higher education departments under Ministry of Education received an increased budgetary allocation in interim budget. Budget positions India for incremental all-round development across sectors. Here's a report.
In these 10 years,
the budget allocation to Ministry of Education for the financial year 2024-25 is more than 734 million, which is the highest ever for the Department of School Education and Literacy. There has been an overall increase of 120 million in funds allocated to this department. While presenting the interim budget, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman highlighted the government's unwavering commitment to empowering the youth, notably the Amrit Pidi, which is the youth of the nation.
Empowering the Amrit Pidi, the Yuva. Our prosperity depends on adequately equipping and empowering the youth. The National Education Policy 2020 is ushering the transformational reforms. PM Schools for Rising India, PM Shri, are delivering quality teaching and nurturing holistic and well-rounded individuals.
The PM Shri initiative was notably mentioned as it is ensuring the delivery of high-quality education, while the Skill India mission has successfully trained more than 10 million youth, upskilled and reskilled more than 5 billion individuals, and established 3,000 new industrial training institutes. Biggest announcement of this budget is the Jai Anusandhan scheme, for which 1,000 billion has been announced as a corpus fund to promote research in academics. National Mission in Education through ICT targets to empower students digitally with 800 million increment in budget. Multidisciplinary education and research improvement in technical education got a 100% increase in budget for this year. Establishment of 3 centers of excellence in artificial intelligence was a big announcement with an allocation of 2,550 million for this year's budget. With this budget, India will pave the way for a golden era of research, innovation and entrepreneurship led by India's talented youth power. Kriti Vadhera for DD India.
And still to come on this edition of DD India Live. US Senate unveils bipartisan bill to tighten border security, aids Ukraine and Israel. Maldives President Moisi to deliver his address at the first parliament sitting of 2024, the main opposition parties to boycott the address. And India set a victory target of 399 runs before England in the Visakhapatnam test.
World that never stops, where information shapes our reality. One app stands out, helps you stay ahead of time. Introducing the DD India app, your gateway to a world of news right at your fingertips. Your most trusted source of news goes global, goes digital. Explore a world of options, top stories, live updates, in-depth analysis, and more. Stay informed wherever you are. Real-time alerts keep you ahead of the curve always. The DD India app, connecting you to the world one story at a time. Download now and explore the world of knowledge, insights, and authentic information.
Voice of a rising aspirational world. Stories of challenges, struggles and accomplishment. A world battling conflict, hunger and poverty. Embracing growth, development, science and technology. A voice of progress, a voice of unity. Watch Voice of the Global South with me, Akshay Dongre, only on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. Moving on, the United States has vowed further action after 3 days of strikes against Iran-backed militia in the West Asia. The White House National Security Advisor Jack Sullivan, in an interview on Sunday, said the U.S. is planning more steps in its response to the attack in Jordan, which killed 3 U.S. troops a week ago. He said Friday's strike on Iraq-backed targets in Iraq and Syria were just the beginning of the U.S. response. He, however, has declined to rule out hitting targets inside Iran. Also, the United States and Britain unleashed attacks against 36 Houthi targets in Yemen a day after the U.S. military hit Tehran-backed groups in Iraq and Syria in retaliation for a deadly attack on U.S. troops in Jordan. DD India's Nick Harper reports from Washington.
The message from the White House is clear that there will be a continuation of its strategy to strike targets in the Middle East. We've now seen 3 days of action from the US, targeting positions in Iraq and Syria on Friday, targeting the Houthi rebels in Yemen on Saturday, and also taking down a Houthi missile that was fired towards US naval ships and also merchant vessels in the Red Sea on Sunday. The US has warned that more action is expected. We heard from the White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan. He spent much of Sunday doing the rounds of US cable news networks, speaking about what the United States has done in recent days, defending that position, but also warning that there is more to come. He said there would be further action, that there would be more steps to come, and also saying that that meant there would be additional strikes. But he wouldn't be drawn on when they could take place or exactly where they could take place. And he didn't rule out the potential of striking targets within Iran. So far, the US has targeted Iran-backed militia in Iraq, in Syria, in Yemen, but hasn't selected targets on Iranian soil. It seems it's avoiding that to not produce the possibility of escalating and broadening this conflict even further. But Jake Sullivan did have a warning for Tehran, saying if they chose to respond directly to the United States, they would be met with a swift and forceful response from Washington. He also could not yet confirm the extent of the damage that the US had caused in those airstrikes on Iraq and Syria. He said Central Command was still assessing exactly what had taken place and what capabilities had been reduced. The message, though, is clear from the White House. What we've seen over the last few days is just a precursor, and more strikes will be coming. Nick Harper in Washington, reporting for DD India.
Well, the UN Security Council is going to hold an emergency meeting on Monday regarding the US strikes in Iraq and Syria. The meeting has been requested by Russia after accusing the US of intentionally aggravating the situation in the West Asia. The strikes were launched in retaliation for the death of 3 American soldiers. Also, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has departed on a visit to the West Asia. This will be the Blinken's 5th trip of the West Asia since the conflict between Israel and Hamas began on October 7th last year. The top U.S. diplomat will travel to Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Qatar, Israel and the West Bank. State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller in a statement said the Secretary will continue diplomatic efforts to reach an agreement that secures the release of all remaining hostages and includes a humanitarian pause that will allow for sustained increased delivery of humanitarian assistance to civilians in Gaza. And the U.S. Senate on Sunday unveiled a $118 billion bipartisan border security bill to tighten border security, aid Ukraine and Israel. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said he would take steps to hold an initial vote on the bill on Wednesday, but faces opposition from both sides of the aisle. In addition to $20.23 billion for border security, the bill included $60.6 billion to support Ukraine in its war with Russia, $14.1 billion in security assistance for Israel, $2.44 billion to U.S. Central Command and the conflict in the Red Sea, and $4.83 billion to support U.S. partners in the Indo-Pacific facing aggression from China, according to figures from U.S. Senator Patty Murray. An additional $10 billion would provide humanitarian assistance for civilians in Gaza, the West Bank and Ukraine. $2.33 billion for Ukrainians displaced by Russia's invasion and other refugees fleeing persecution. The package is the result of months of negotiations, but the measure faces an uncertain future amid opposition by Donald Trump and hardline Republicans. And updates now, Russia-Ukraine war. President Volodymyr Zelensky visited Ukrainian troops on the southeastern front and handed out medals on Sunday. Zelensky visited the Ukrainian military's forward positions near the village of Robotyne, which is located almost on the battle line. The president's visit to the battle lines came at a time of uncertainty over the fate of Army Chief Valery Zaluzhnyi. Zaluzhnyi has clashed with Zelensky over a range of issues. Further, Zelensky is also considering replacing several high-ranking officials and not just in the military to determine who is to lead the country. And Senegalese security forces uses tear gas to disperse a small crowd that had gathered in the capital Dakar to protest against the postponement of the presidential election. President Macky Sall announced on Saturday the vote would be delayed to an unspecified date due to a dispute over the candidates list. The forces detained presidential candidate Anta Babakar near the protest. Around 200 protesters blocked the roadways of burning tires. Senegal has never delayed a presidential vote. The move has sparked a constitutional crisis and dealt a blow to democracy across West Africa. And Salvadorans vote in presidential and legislative elections on Sunday with overwhelming support for President Nayib Bukele and his New Ideas party. While popular, Bukele has campaigned on the success of his security strategy, under which authorities suspended civil liberties to arrest more than 75,000 Salvadorans without charges. The detentions led to a sharp decline in nationwide murder rates and transformed a country of 6.3 million people that was once among the world's most dangerous. El Salvador's Supreme Electoral Tribunal last year permitted him to run for a second term in elections. Opponents fears Bukele would seek to rule for life, following President Daniel Ortega from next door, Nicaragua. And Namibia swore in Zangolo Mabua as interim president following the death of ex-president Hage Geingob from cancer. The interim president was also sworn as vice president. During the ceremony, Nangol is expected to remain the governing party's candidate for president in polls expected in November. During his speech, Mabuba paid tribute to Geingob and promised to uphold the country's constitution until a new president is elected in the upcoming election at the end of the year. Late Geingob passed away on Sunday after a brief battle with cancer. Well, amid the political turmoil continues in Maldives, the island nation's president, Mohamed Muizi, set to deliver his first address at the first parliament sitting of 2024. Meanwhile, the main opposition parties of Maldives, the Maldivian Democratic Party and the Democrats, have decided to boycott President Muizi's address to the parliament. Well, moving on, Chile has seen devastating wildfires in Vina del Mar and Valparaiso, two popular tourist cities, causing widespread devastation. The area shows scorched neighborhoods and collapsed corrugated iron roofs. Authorities have implemented a 9 p.m. curfew in the hardest-hit areas and sent in the military to help firefighters. 99 deaths have been reported so far. Chile's President Boric has announced 2 days of national mourning and called for Chile to prepare for more bad news. Now let's take a look at other stories making news across the globe. Parisians have approved a threefold increase in parking charges for large SUVs, aiming to make the city a fully bikeable one. The referendum, which came after residents banned e-scooters, aims to discourage bulky polluting cars and apply to electric cars of 2 tons and more. However, analysts warn that this measure may not be an effective pollution solution. The Copenhagen Light Festival, an annual event, features art installations, sculptures and projections to illuminate the city until 25th of February. Artists from Denmark and around the world have participated, and visitors can participate in walking and cycling tours focusing on different themes. Pooches dressed as Minnie Mouses and other fancy canines participated in Rio's annual Pooch Parade on the 4th of February at Copacabana Beach, Brazil. In Canine Festival is part of Rio's annual celebrations filled with Brazilians and tourists from around the world. Human carnival competitions will take place from February 9th to the 17th. Mexicans are gearing up for Lunar New Year with a dragon costume contest aiming to better understand Chinese zodiac culture and celebrate Spring Festival with Chinese people. The competition divided into children's and adult groups. Most entries echo the Chinese zodiac and Year of the Rat. And on to sports now. World Soccer's governing body FIFA announced the schedule for the 2026 World Cup. The final will be held in New Jersey. The 48-team World Cup is being co-hosted by the United States, Canada and Mexico. It will conclude on the 19th of July. Mexico City's Estadio Azteca will host the opening match of tournament on the 11th of June, when Mexico will become the first nation to stage the World Cup for a third time. The first match in Canada will be June 12th in Toronto, while the opening game in the United States will be in Los Angeles. Dallas and Atlanta will host the two semi-finals. The 2026 World Cup will feature 104 matches instead of the traditional 64 games, including an additional knockout round due to the previously announced decision to expand to 48 teams from 32. And in cricket, India will look for eagerly breakthroughs as the host face England on the day 4 of the second test in Visakhapatnam. The visitors will resume the innings at 67 for loss of 1 wicket. The tourists lost the wicket of Ben Duckett on day 3 on Sunday. They would still need 332 runs to go 2-0 up in the 5-match series. Earlier, India has set England a victory target of 399. Shubman Gill top scored with 104, while Axar Patel contributed 45. And appreciating each other's company and a long friendship, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi responded to French President Emmanuel Macron's post on social media platform X, saying that Macron's visit will boost India-France ties. French President Emmanuel Macron shared a video of his exceptional India trip.
Nous avons tout à dire à un pays comme l'Inde. Puissance démocratique, démographique, économique et technologique qui va être au cœur de la réinvention du monde. C'est énorme. Merci beaucoup.
French President Emmanuel Macron is the chief guest.
French President Emmanuel Macron has been invited as the chief guest at this year's Republic Day parade.
Extremely honored to be part of such an important and unique day. This is in our memories forever.
Well, that's all for this edition of DD India Live. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook X, formerly known as Twitter and Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.
In a world that never stops,